Welcome to Math Project video number 3, creating a quiz. The goals of this video are twofold. Number one, how to create functionality in your quiz button, and secondly, how to actually create that interactive quiz. So let's jump right into it. When I go to Scratch, here's what I have so far. I've got a story in which a character shows up and it introduces people to the tutorial, and I've got two buttons, quiz and explanation. My explanation button works just fine. I will cycle through an explanation, and by the time that this actually ends, it takes me back to my intro screen. So now let's do the first part of the video. Let's actually add functionality to our quiz button. So what I'm going to do is click on the quiz button. And the first thing that I want to do is create an event for this. So when this sprite is clicked, I want to do something. What I want to do is I want to broadcast a message. And if you remember from the last video, broadcasting is basically a signal. And when that signal is received by other sprites or backgrounds, it indicates when or if to do something. So when this sprite is clicked, I want to broadcast a signal. So my signal this time is going to be called quiz. Okay, so when this sprite is clicked, broadcast quiz, and the first sprite that should receive this signal is the button itself. So when I receive quiz, what do you think I should do? If you said hide, you are absolutely right. So when this button receives quiz, it should hide. Now let's go through and make sure that when these two sprites receive quiz, they hide as well. I'll start with the elephant. When I receive when I receive quiz, and again, this is taken from your events palette. So when I receive quiz, I want to go to my looks palette and I want to hide. And I'll go to the explanation button. And when I receive quiz, I also want to hide. Okay, that takes care of these two other sprites and what needs to happen when they receive that the quiz broadcast. Now let's actually jump into the code itself. So actually, one more thing. Let's add a background here for our quiz because I like this, but let's actually make a new background for the quiz. So I'll go to background, and just so you know how to add a background that may be different, let me show you how to do that really quick. So I pulled up a background for Latin School. What I'll do is a two-finger click on it, and it'll say Save Image As. And I'll just save this to my desktop, Latin Entrance. Okay, that's great. And now that that's saved to my desktop, what I can do is go ahead and click this folder for a new backdrop. And I can select that Latin Entrance. Just open it up. And great, I've got this right here. But notice this section right here is still white. So it's not totally filling up everything that I want it to fill up. If you have a situation like that, go ahead and click this select icon. And then you want to select the whole image. Notice these lines coming up to select an image. And when I click the image, these resizing buttons come up. And what I can do is quickly just resize it to the right size. Great. So now I've got Latin Entrance. And let me go to my scripts for my backgrounds. When I go to scripts, what I want this to do is when the flag is clicked, it starts on stage 1. When I receive explanation, it switches to the blue sky. When it receives the beginning, it goes back to stage 1. But now, when I receive what? Quiz, I want to switch the backdrop. So I'll go back to looks, and I'll switch the backdrop to Latin Entrance. So now the background is set to switch whenever this receives, when the stages receive the quiz broadcast. Now let's actually get into coding the quiz. What I'm going to want is a sprite that is going to house all of the code for the quiz. And this sprite is going to be the one that kind of introduces us to the quiz itself. So let me just pick a sprite. It doesn't matter who. I'll just say this person, Avery. And now you notice that all of these things are still here. That's okay. We're going to worry about that later. So first thing, Avery, I would say looks too big. And so what I'm going to want to do with Avery is I want to resize her. And so I'll go to make sure that I'm clicked on her. I'll go to costumes. And what I can do is just select around Avery and noticing the resizing icons come up. I can now resize her to a more appropriate size. And it looks like that might be just enough for my Latin background. Okay, so now let's add some code to Avery. So when I go to scripts for Avery, let's do the first thing. When the flag is clicked, let's make sure that Avery hides. Okay. Now for Avery, I want to add something new. I want to go to this palette called Data, and I want to add several things. I want to add variables, specifically 3 variables. One that connects to a question number, one that connects to an answer number, and one that's a score. And if you remember me describing from class, a variable is basically kind of a container. It's a bucket that stores values, and those values can change. So we're going to make a variable. We'll call the first one score. And notice all of these new blocks show up. The second variable that we want to make is, we'll call it a number. So this is the answer number for the answers that we have. And then the next thing that we want to do is make a variable called Q number, and you'll see what these mean. So that's question number. So right now I've got a number, Q number, and score. Here's something else that I want to do with Avery. Notice that these things showed up right away. And when the flag is clicked, I actually want to hide all these variables. So let's go ahead and drag a hide variable. And we can just make sure that all of these things are hidden. So I'll hide score, a number, and Q number. Okay, so now that's hidden. Now Avery should receive the quiz broadcast. So let's go over here. When I receive, not beginning, but when I receive quiz, I want certain things to happen with Avery. First of all, I want to set the score to 0 because I want to reset the score every time. So I'll go back here and I'll make sure that the score is 0. I want to make sure that I also show the variable score when I click quiz. Next thing that I want to do is I want to set the answer number to answer number 1, and I want to set the question number to question number 1. This is a good place for us to stop. We're going to now create the questions within here and the answers so that we can go on to make our quiz functional.